Chelsea is falling apart from the inside, and nobody can pretend otherwise anymore. Let me ask you something straight. When did you last watch Chelsea and feel genuinely excited about where this club is going? Not just hopeful, not just patient, but truly excited. If you are struggling to answer that, then this piece is for you. Because right now, Chelsea is not just having a rough patch on the pitch. There is something much deeper going on, and the cracks are finally becoming impossible to ignore. We are going to break it all down today. The transfer strategy debate that just will not go away, the players who are making noise about leaving, the one player who is handling everything the right way, and the Roman Abramovich money situation that somehow keeps getting more complicated. Stick with us to the end because there is a lot to talk about, and all of it matters if you care about the future of this club. Where did it all go wrong? Cast your mind back to not even a year ago. Chelsea won the Club World Cup. There was real celebration, real joy. It felt like the BlueCo era was finally starting to make sense. But look at where the club sits right now. 6th in the Premier League, 6 points outside the top 4, 1 win in their last 5 league games. That is not the form of a club that is building towards something. That is the form of a club that is struggling to hold itself together. Now, to be fair, 5th place is still possible. Chelsea are only 1 point behind Liverpool for that spot, and 5th could still be enough to get into next season's Champions League depending on how things play out. So the season is not dead. But the questions being asked right now go way beyond this season. People are starting to wonder whether the whole Chelsea project is actually working at all. Because here's the honest truth. Since BlueCo took over at Stamford Bridge, there has been a lot of spending, there has been a lot of activity, there has been a lot of talk about the future, but the club is no closer to actually challenging for a Premier League title than they were when all of this started. And now, with some of their biggest names starting to look toward the exits, things feel like they could unravel very quickly. So let us talk about the 3 big stories sitting at the heart of all of this right now. The transfer strategy is being questioned by everyone. If you have been following Chelsea closely, you will know that the club under BlueCo has tried to do something very different in the transfer market. The idea has been to bring in young players on long contracts, develop them, and if they leave for big money down the line, that is a profit for the club. In theory, it sounds smart. In practice, Chelsea fans have not always felt the benefit of it, and now the players themselves are starting to speak out. Marc Cucurella is one of the senior voices in that dressing room. He is a Euro winner with Spain. He was one of the very first signings of the BlueCo era, so when he talks it means something, and recently he has been talking a lot. Cucurella made his feelings clear in an interview with The Athletic. He said something that really stuck. His words were roughly translated, but the meaning was clear. He said that while he understands the club wants to sign young players and look toward the future, for those who are still there and want to win big things, moments like this make you feel discouraged. That is a pretty heavy thing to say publicly, and it tells you a lot about the mood inside the building. Now, to be fair to BlueCo, they have not only signed kids. Sky Sports journalist Kave Solhekol pointed out that the club would argue they have signed established players too. He used João Pedro as an example, and that is a valid point. But here is the thing. Every Chelsea fan you speak to will tell you the same thing. They feel the club needs to go back to what made Chelsea great in the first place, which is signing the very best players in the world, not just young ones with potential, the absolute best. Is that unfair to the current ownership? Maybe a little. Building a squad is expensive and complicated, but is it how Chelsea fans feel? Absolutely yes. And Cucurella is not even done there. He also spoke about the decision to sack Enzo Maresca mid-season and replace him with Liam Rosenior. Fabrizio Romano, one of the most respected transfer journalists in the world, explained Cucurella's thinking in detail on his YouTube channel. Romano said that Cucurella was not speaking against Chelsea or against any individual. He was sending a message to the club, almost like a wake-up call, from a position of genuine care and leadership. According to Romano, Cucurella felt that sacking a manager in the middle of the season was not the best solution. He thought it would have been better to make that kind of big decision at the end of the season instead. And he also pointed out that while Liam Rosenior has good ideas, it is really difficult to get those ideas across to the players properly when you are dropped into the job halfway through a campaign. So here is the question for you. Do you think BlueCo made the right call sacking Maresca when they did, or should they have waited until the summer to make a change? Drop your thoughts below, because this is a debate worth having. What Cucurella is doing, according to Romano, is not trying to leave. He is not trying to cause chaos. He is trying to be a leader. He is saying the things that maybe others in the squad feel, but are afraid to say out loud. And sometimes, the clubs that listen to those messages are the ones that avoid bigger disasters later on. The question is whether BlueCo are actually listening. Enzo Fernandez is making things very uncomfortable. Now, if Cucurella's comments felt bold, what Enzo Fernandez has been doing is something else entirely, and this is where things get really interesting. Fernandez has been at Chelsea for a while now, and he has never quite been the player many hoped he would be in a Chelsea shirt consistently. But he is still one of the most important midfielders in the squad, and right now, his future is anything but certain. After Chelsea's Champions League exit to Paris Saint-Germain, Fernandez was asked directly about his future. His answer was not exactly a ringing endorsement of staying put. He said he is focused on Chelsea for now, but then there is the World Cup, and after that, they will see. After the World Cup, we will see. Let that sink in for a moment. For a player who is supposed to be committed to a club he joined for a huge transfer fee, that is a remarkably open door to leave. And it did not stop there. When asked specifically whether he had spoken to Real Madrid, he denied that any talks had taken place, but then repeated almost the exact same thing again. After the World Cup, we will see. Then came the moment that really set social media on fire. Fernandez opened up in an interview about where he would like to live. He said he would like to live in Spain. He said Madrid reminds him of Buenos Aires. He said he gets by in English but would be more comfortable in Spanish. Now, individually, you could argue each of these quotes is innocent enough. Lots of players have preferences about where they live, but put them all together and a very clear picture starts to form. Enzo Fernandez is not closing the door on a move. He is practically leaving it wide open with a welcome mat outside, and the club that everyone is linking him to, Real Madrid, the same Real Madrid that Chelsea fans have seen circle their best players before. So here's the question. If Real Madrid come in with a big offer for Enzo Fernandez in the summer, do you think Chelsea should sell him, or should they do everything possible to keep him? Let us know in the comments, because this one splits opinion right down the middle. The one player getting it completely right. Now we have talked a lot about players who are making uncomfortable noises, but there is one Chelsea player who is handling things in a completely different way, and that player is Moises Caicedo. Caicedo was asked directly about transfer speculation during an interview with the Spanish show El Chiringuito TV. Real Madrid have been linked with him too. It would have been very easy for him to give a vague answer, leave a door open, and let the rumor mill do the rest, but that is not what he did. Instead, he shut the whole conversation down in the most respectful but firm way possible. He said he is focused on his club right now. He has a contract with his club. He wants to do well. And then he said something that really stood out. He said he wants to be a legend at Chelsea, God willing, and that was all he had to say on the matter. That is exactly what Chelsea fans want to hear from their players. No drama, no games, just full commitment, and a genuine desire to be part of what the club is building. And the contrast with Fernandez could not be more obvious. Both players are being linked with moves. Both players are being asked the same sorts of questions, but they are giving completely different answers. Caicedo shut it down. Fernandez keeps the door open. Now, to be fair to Fernandez, he has not officially asked to leave. He has not handed in a transfer request, and players are allowed to have their own thoughts about their futures. But the way you communicate those thoughts matters enormously, and right now Caicedo is showing exactly how to do it with class. Do you think Chelsea fans should be more worried about Fernandez leaving than they are about Caicedo? Or is Caicedo the one more likely to be targeted by big clubs? That is genuinely an interesting debate worth having. What about Cole Palmer? No article about Chelsea transfers would be complete without mentioning Cole Palmer. And while there is less concrete news on him specifically, the situation is still worth talking about. Palmer has not exactly been rushing to shut down transfer talk either. He has not given the kind of flat denial that Caicedo gave. And while his head coach Liam Rosenior has tried to play everything down, saying there is no reason for assurance and that it is completely unrealistic, the noise around Palmer has not gone away. Rosenior said earlier this year that the Palmer transfer talk has come from nowhere, and there is nothing in it. He said there is no reason to even have the conversation, which is strong language from a manager trying to protect his best player. But here is the thing about Chelsea under BlueCo. They have handed out a lot of long-term contracts to players. The thinking has been that long contracts protect the club if a player wants to leave. But long contracts alone are not enough if your best players are not winning things, not playing in the biggest games regularly, and not feeling like they are part of a club with a clear direction. The contracts buy time, but they do not buy happiness. And unhappy players with long contracts can become a real problem very quickly. The Roman Abramovich money situation. Now let us switch to a different kind of Chelsea story, one that does not involve any players but still affects the club in a very real way. When Roman Abramovich sold Chelsea back in 2022 because of sanctions connected to the war in Ukraine, he made a promise. He said that all the money from that sale, which came to around £2.35 billion, would go to charity. Specifically, he said it would go to help the victims of the war in Ukraine. The UK government agreed to that plan in principle, but insisted the money had to go specifically to Ukraine. And since then, that huge pot of money has been sitting frozen. Abramovich cannot touch it because of sanctions. And the government has been waiting to see what he does next. Now, Abramovich has pushed ahead with a plan. He has had a charity registered by former UNICEF chief executive Mike Penrose. The foundation's mission is to help victims of conflict around the world, not just in Ukraine. That is a key distinction, and it is one the UK government was not happy about. The government, led by Prime Minister Keir Starmer, had set Abramovich a deadline of March 17 to release the funds for Ukraine specifically. That deadline passed, and now the government has to decide whether to take emergency legal action to block the charity being registered the way Abramovich wants it. Starmer had previously told the House of Commons that Abramovich should honor his commitment and pay up for those whose lives have been torn apart by the war. He made clear that the government was prepared to go to court if necessary. So the standoff continues, and while this does not directly affect Chelsea's transfer budget or squad decisions right now, it does affect the broader image of the club's recent past, and it is a reminder that the story of Chelsea and Abramovich is far from over, even years after he sold the club. What do you think? Should the money be restricted specifically to Ukraine as the government wants, or is a broader global humanitarian foundation, as Abramovich proposes, an acceptable alternative? This is a genuinely complicated question, and we would love to hear where Chelsea fans stand on it. The bigger picture. So when you step back and look at all of this together, what do you see? You see a Chelsea squad where some players are showing loyalty and commitment, and others are making noises about potentially leaving. You see a club whose transfer strategy is being publicly questioned, not just by fans and journalists, but by senior players in the dressing room. You see a manager who was brought in mid-season trying to implement his ideas in difficult circumstances, and you see an ownership that is at a crossroads, needing to decide whether to stick rigidly to their youth and trading model or find a better balance between that and competing for trophies right now. The fans have been patient. Many of them have tried to trust the process and believe that BlueCo knows what they are doing, but patience has its limits. And when your own senior players start saying publicly that the club's decisions make them feel discouraged, that is not something you can just brush off. Fabrizio Romano framed it well when talking about Cucurella. He said, "The left back is one of the leaders of the dressing room and one of the faces of the Chelsea project." When someone like that speaks up, it means there is a real conversation happening behind closed doors that the fans are only starting to get a glimpse of. The summer transfer window is going to be absolutely critical for this club. If Chelsea lose Fernandez to Real Madrid without bringing in genuine quality to replace him, that would be a serious blow. If Palmer starts making similar noises after the World Cup season, that would be even more concerning. But if they manage to keep their best players, bring in a couple of experienced and proven performers to complement all the youth and give Rosinho or whoever is managing the team a proper chance with a balanced squad, then maybe things can start to feel more stable. The foundations are there. Even Cucurella acknowledged that when he talked about the loss to PSG, he said you could see the young squad has quality. The base exists, but quality and potential are not the same as trophies and results, and Chelsea fans know better than most what it feels like to have the very best. They have experienced it. They know the difference. Final thoughts. Chelsea are not in crisis, but they are at one of the most important crossroads in recent memory. The decisions made in the next few months, both on the pitch and in the boardroom, could define whether this club genuinely moves forward or whether it spends another few seasons drifting in the middle of the pack. The players who stay committed, like Caicedo, are the ones worth building around. The messages being sent by players like Cucurella deserve to be heard and taken seriously. The transfer strategy needs refinement, not necessarily abandonment, and the ownership needs to show, through actions rather than words, that they genuinely want Chelsea to win now as well as in the future, because that is what Chelsea is supposed to be about. Not just building for 5 years from now, not just signing players and hoping they develop. Chelsea is supposed to be a club that competes at the very highest level every single year. The fans deserve that. The players in that dressing room who are giving everything deserve that. And frankly, the legacy of what this club has been in the past demands nothing less. So here's the final question we want to leave you with. If you were in charge of Chelsea right now, what is the one thing you would change immediately to get the club back on track? The transfer policy, the management setup, the communication with players, the style of football? Let us know. Because the best Chelsea analysis always starts with the fans. Until next time, keep the blue flag flying high.